Right, we are here for our coffee chat. I've got my green tea and we're feeling feisty today, aren't we, Bryce?
Yes, yes. I don't have my drink, but it's okay. I drank a lot that sounded bad. I had a lot of
Yeah,
water. It's all
she's got her vodka bottle under the table. And you might need it for today because we've got a mix of topics today, haven't we, Bryce? We're going to be really talking about self-sufficient living and all the capacities that means to us. And why, looking at some and putting in some examples of what's going on right here, right now, real examples that we're not making up, why this is so important a subject to talk about. It's such a biggie. There's so many people talking about self-sufficient living as if it's a nice little hobby that, little rich people do when they live out in the countryside. That's so far from the truth, isn't it, Bryce?
I mean, that's how we're here because our ancestors were self-sufficient. It's survival. It's actually concerning to me the state that we're in now because so many people would not know what to do if all of our modern conveniences were gone.
And it's not that long ago, my grandma was had both her children in the Second World War in London. My parents were born in the Second World War in London. If most of us know people, it's not very far back in our generations that we see people that had to be self-sufficient again. So I was speaking to my mother about this today, and I think the problem is it's like people get the piss taken out of them for talking about organic or good quality water. And people think it's a luxury without realizing, as you've hit the nail on the head, this literally the clues in the title, self-sufficient living. Do you want to live? And this covers so much more than the world we're living in now. We're so manipulated. We've talked about this so many times. And if you talk about things that are really important to your own individual survival, your family's survival, and let's face it, the species survival, people accuse you of fear mongering. And I loved your analogy you brought up, Bryce.
Oh, with the airplane? Yeah, yeah. What was it about? We have to be. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, Bryce was saying that, if we get accused of talking about these things and saying it's fear mongering, it's not going to come onto that. Well, give us your example with the airplane.
Well, if that's the case, then all the flight attendants in the airplane should never give us a security talk before we take off, because that's with that logic, that's fear mongering. So it's ridiculous. We need to know what to do to protect ourselves. We need to understand, it's if we don't know what to do to protect ourselves, then we are unprotected. We are not self-sufficient. We need protecting. I know you've talked about a lot, even with the airplane analogy, how for a long time you didn't understand the adult first, then the child, right? And then all of a sudden, but yeah, so that you can secure yourself and then take responsibility for someone that can't do that for themselves. But if you don't know that, if you haven't been in a time where things are calm, if you haven't been trained to do that in a moment of panic, everything could go awry, right? So like when you take off in the airplane, you know where the exits are, you know that the oxygen mask will fall, you know that the seat cushions will float. You've been told these instructions. We've been told them over and over and over again. There's even in every seat, there's even a little pamphlet that gives you everything to do in an emergency situation. I've never been in an emergency situation in an airplane. I've never had to land in water. I've never had to use the floating device, but I know where it is. And I
Mm.
don't take off in the plane thinking because the stewardess had told me this that something bad is going to happen. But we know what to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, being prepared is not fear mongering. It's
Yeah.
empowering.
It's
It's you.
it's literally an inversion. It's
Yeah.
literally like everything else we all talk about. It's literally inversion. We all know conspiracy theorists came from the three-letter agencies. I think so does fear mongering, because the whole point is that what it's doing is it's just keeping people a state. We've got the fight, we've got the flight, and we've got the fear. So that we all know that there's lots of plans in place to stop us fleeing.
Yep.
We all know that there's lots of plans that are really playing out really well for the dark side now to stop us fighting, because most people are incapable of fighting. They're incapable of fighting mentally. If you can't advocate for yourself, even verbally, good luck. I know some people talk with their fists and not with their mouth, and that's a certain type of character. But, if you have no capacity left to advocate for yourself, someone said yesterday, I was listening to a podcast, and I'm just going to get the wording right because it was so powerful, guys. I literally wrote it down. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. Now, we've all heard this so many times, but what do you stand for as an individual? And
Yeah.
why would you be shamed either by yourself or by others for standing up in that belief? As responsible humans, we've got responsibilities for looking after those in our care, whether that's elderly relatives, whether it's animals, whether it's children, whether it's sick neighbours or whatever. This is how communities and species survive. And everything from the poisoning of our air, our water, our food supplies, most importantly, the poisoning of our minds, it's stopping us for being able to survive should we need to. So I think this self-sufficient living, I'm so excited to see such a revival in it. Let that revival begin, because imagine what that's going to do to the controllers when they realize, shit, these
We
people
don't have
to get their act together.
as you're saying that too, Catherine, I'm thinking about the Zapper-Dee-Doo-Dah that came
Yeah.
out. And a lot of us did not receive it, A, because it felt wrong, but B, because there were a lot of really smart people that put together their research on other, not on this platform, but others that informed us
Yeah.
of what the dangers were. Is that fear mongering? Or is that informed consent? It's crazy to me that we've gotten to this point. I laugh because I share these Insta stories a lot and these TikToks because I know you're Generation X. I'm a Zennial. I'm right at the edge, and I share a lot of these and it's millennials and Generation X basically making fun of Generation Z because
Yeah.
they're wussies basically compared to the tough, how life was tougher for us. But I'm grateful for that because so I don't know what's happened in this idea that we mustn't ever talk about a bad possibility. We mustn't ever. It's like, are you kidding me? Like this is not how generations before us survived.
Yeah.
This we're the descendants of people who survived the plague. You mean to tell me that they didn't understand consequences and cause and effect, and they didn't take things into consideration when our ancestors, when they were going about their life? I bet they did. I bet they sure as hell did. You can't tell me that in 1666, when London was on fire, that the people of London, the ones that survived, didn't use common sense and practical escape routes to escape. You can't tell me during the Chicago fire that the same thing didn't happen, or the burning of Atlanta. Like, this is just reality. This is how I'm sure in the wild, animals are able to calculate
Oh,
danger
completely.
and safety.
Completely. And when you prep, it's like you prepare. If lack of preparation is just basically preparing to fail. So
Yes.
I've got horses. I deal with a lot of rescue animals. Sorry, my dog's going mad. Someone outside. I do, and when you've got animals, if you don't build a relationship with them, it will come back to bite you. So a classic example is when I get when the horses come into my lives, and mine are all rescues. The first thing I do is I get them comfortable with legs going over their head, over their back, with ropes tied around their legs and things like that. Because if a horse gets its leg trapped in something and it panics, then it's got a broken leg and that's the end of the horse. I met someone out on a ride last week, and she had to get off in a hurry. And because there was a tree branch behind her, she couldn't get off the normal way, and she had to put her head over the horse's head. The horse went absolutely ballistic because she'd never done it before, reared up, and she ended up in hospital. This is what happens when you don't prepare. And so I'm really loving the fact that it's sensible that we learn how to at least grow some basic stuff of our own. And you see my
Absolutely.
and my plants.
Absolutely.
It's sensible that we learn how to purify water. Now, everyone knows that we're banned from talking about certain substances that Andreas Kelker and I have talked about, but you should have water purification stuff and you should know how to use it. It's really sensible that you learn how to light a fire. Have you got in your place, if you need to, a way to keep warm? If not, where can you go? Where you can you go to a local woodland or something? All these things. But I think also the self-sufficient mindset. We've been so poisoned and dumbed down, you know, a toxic mindset of not taking responsibility for ourselves.
Oh, you know, as you're saying that too, Catherine, because where I live in the world, we get tornadoes all the time, and I know that a lot of people think we're crazy because we'll sit out on the front porch and watch the tornado until it's time to get and take shelter. But I'm going to say this, like, okay, so you know, growing up here, we would have tornado drills at school when I
Yeah.
was a little kid, where the bell would ring. It was a tornado drill, ring a certain time. The teachers would gather us into the hallway where there are no windows, and we'd have to sit as kids with our head between our knees and our hands on our head. And they would make, even though it was just a drill, they would make us sit there like that for like 20 minutes. And then we would get up and go back to class. It was a drill. So was that fear mongering? Or was that being prepared because the likelihood of a tornado coming through is very, very high here? Right. And so we know. So if you live in the Southeast, if you buy a house, you need a basement for
Yeah.
that reason. If you don't have a basement, you need a closet in the middle of your house that doesn't have windows for that reason. For a tornado, is that fear mongering? No, it's being smart. It's survival. You know, I'm not a fan of evolution, but I like Darwin's survival of the fittest because that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest means this the strongest among a species will survive.
Mm.
So are you going to be, and for human beings, it's like we've got to the point where it comes basically down to your intelligence. Are you going to be dumb enough to allow yourself to gaslight yourself into this toxic positivity that you're not prepared? Or are you going to be smart enough to say, in my mind, I think everything's going to be okay, but I also need to be smart, understand that I don't control the world and anything can happen at any point. You know, my grandfather used to say that. He would say, nothing is in your control. Nothing, don't ever believe anything is in your control. The only thing you can control is yourself. That's
Yeah.
it. And that's interesting, Catherine, that we're seeing such a rise in people calling us like fear mongering when we're just trying to speak in practicality when we all just survived 2020. I mean, look what
Yeah.
happened in 2020 when everything was taken from us. You don't think that's going to
Exactly.
happen again?
I know it, and you know, the internet outages and things like this. I love the saying that, you know, I pray to God, but I row towards the shore. And
Yeah.
that's exactly the way I look at it. It's like being prepared gets me out of a fear state personally, not into a fear state, because I'm quite a planner. You know, I've been project planners in my old jobs, and I'm very good at planning things and thinking about different scenarios and risk management. And risk management, if you do it right, takes the pressure off you, not puts the pressure on you. And I think it's been very inverted to make people think it's the other way round and that ignorance is bliss. Well, only to a point, because that ignorance will come back and bite you. And you know, if you want to have any choice in your life, then you need to start being prepared in different ways, whatever that looks for you. And how people need to prepare and be self-sufficient is very different for each and every one of us, based on your climate, your age, your who've you got in your family that you need to look after. So for me, a classic example, I've got loads of animals, so I can't just suddenly pack them up and go, because that would
Right.
be virtually impossible.
Right.
So therefore I have to take different plans from someone that's just got themselves to look after, and they can just put their rucksack on the bag and go. So there is no one size fits all, but it's very sensible to look at your situation, who are your dependents, and what are the best choices you can make. You know, it's no accident that the elites are building bunkers and funding travel into space. You know, talk about giving yourself two options.
Right. You know, it's so funny. We had a really good question, I think week before last or last week, where somebody asked about what if they have a adult child or a disabled family member, and that is a situation that fortunately that's not something I have to worry about in my situation, but that is a really good, the fact that somebody even asked that question,
Yeah.
they're in that space of going, I need to make sure that I've got a plan for this particular person who depends on me. And it depends on the disability. It depends on, are they wheelchair bound? You know,
Yeah.
can you just push them? You know, can't that might depend on you needing to up your physical activity so that you are strong enough to carry the weight of two people. You know, so that you're right. It's every single person's situation is going to be different. We said this before. I said, you know, where you live in the world. Give
Yeah.
us Give us a slogan you learned as a child that helps you survive. Like for me, the snakes or the Indian trees pointing towards water. Red on yellow with the snakes can kill a fellow. Red on black, you better step back. You know, these are little things that give you empowerment so that you can protect yourself in the wild if you are found yourself in the wild, which my situation in south to southeastern United States is going to be very different for Catherine in London.
Yeah,
You know, I
absolutely.
have I have to worry about intense heat outside, whereas Catherine might have to worry about more
Good.
rain,
We
you
don't
know?
have to go about intensity. But no, this is where it is. It's like what you can do is get into the thing, and this comes into having a self-sufficient mindset. A mindset is really, really key to absolutely everything. So it's about doing what you can. We can't prepare for certain things. There's certain things you can't. So it's like the good old average is, can I do something about it? Yes, prepare. Can I do something about it? No, don't worry.
Yeah.
If you can't do anything about it, then that's your question answered. But if you're honest with yourself and you can do. The other thing is I think it's so fascinating to see. I was speaking to my mother about this morning. It's amazing that we've got to a society where people think things like growing their own food. Now, you can grow some of your own food, whether you live in a one-bedroom apartment or whether you've got a great big farm, and every variation in between. And also you can team up with other people or other things in the community to do it. But the fact now that people think it's an effort to cook from scratch a healthy meal for their family, and I include animals in that as well, just shows how off par we've got. What's the point of having time to go to the gym or play golf if you don't even know how to feed yourself and your family properly?
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. It's interesting. I was telling you on text that there's this great little docu-series. It's actually on Netflix where they talk about food, and they actually go through the history, especially in the United States, about how we got to this place where we are now with our food. And it was very interesting because I'd never heard some of the stuff they were talking about with people being underweight in the United States before, or right after World War II, or anyway. And they talked a lot about the fruit, preparing your food. And what's interesting too, Catherine, as you were saying that as well, we see, I don't know if I shared this on YouTube or not with you, or if it was off camera, but there was a TikTok I stumbled upon a few weeks ago where this girl had just bought a bag of lemons from the grocery store. And her friend came over and was like, "Why did you buy lemons?" And she was like, "Because whatever." And she goes, "But you have a lemon tree outside."
Yes.
The girl who bought the lemons did not realize, she's like 30, did not realize that the lemons from the grocery store are the same as the lemons in her front yard from her lemon tree. So this is how disconnected we've become. And something my boyfriend's really good at too is he's good at knowing plant life. So
Yeah.
when we go hiking, sometimes he'll just eat from the woods. He knows
I'm
what
good
to
at
eat.
that. Mm.
And that's something you can educate yourself on. Like anywhere you are in the world, like there's a lot of plants that we consider weeds here in the United States that
Yep.
people will. And I've been looking up stuff that some of these, like the dandelion, like some of these are actually really good nutrients for a human being.
Amazing. And actually, that brings me on to, because we're going to be talking about the self-sufficient bundle that I'm part of. And my contribution to that bundle is actually about something called zoopharmacognosy, animal self-medicating. This is teaching you how to work with your dogs, but it's much more than that, because within that, I cover the difference between food and medicine, and how you know that, and how important it is to know that, because you can have too much of a good thing. Also how to tune in and see what your body needs and when it's had enough. And so even though we're using dogs in this occasion as the species that we're demonstrating on, it teaches you so much about how to live in harmony with nature, what to look out for, what not to look out for, how the different methods you can take and use these. And it's such a good point. We've got to get back to basics, and I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. You make your own choice. But at a time now with everything going on, if people aren't looking into being self-sufficient in whatever way resonates for them based on where they live, what their family situation is, etc., at least doing something. And if you've got friends that you can have the conversation with, teaming up and saying, well, you do this bit, you look into that, I'll look into this, then quite honestly, I haven't got much sympathy anymore, because it's not about panic buying. It's not about any of that. It's about really taking your power back and seeing how you feel physically, emotionally, and how uncontrollable you are when you actually divert your attention into something that is really going to do you so much good on a physical and on an emotional level.
Oh, and what it's like, another example I thought of, like every time we take our dog up to the mountains, our Ravi, we let him go off leash because there's
Yeah.
this dust, but we always put an orange vest on him. Why do we do that? We do that because they're hunters up there,
Yeah.
and we want the hunters to see that he's a dog, because the hunters wear orange vests as well. Now, is that because I put an orange vest on my dog, is that fear mongering? No, it's being prepared
Yeah.
because we know there are people hunting up there, and they'll be able to see that that's a dog. And a lot of dogs are with their hunting with their humans and have orange vest on as well. So
It's
that's not,
completely sensible. It's
yeah.
absolutely, completely sensible because, you know, both you and I have got dogs that are the same color as deer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's a point for that because they're wild.
And
They're
exactly, and they needed to. I think she's having fun on the sofa there. Look. But
um,
so I think the other example in terms of the self-sufficient living and what really made me want to bring about it today, two reasons, Bryce. First and foremost, anyone who's on my Telegram, CatherineEdwards.life on Telegram, everyone keeps joining my personal me one. No, I don't put everything on CatherineEdwards.life on Telegram. And there was a really good interview yesterday with Candice Owens talking about Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have been taken, they were arrested again in Romania. And it's very much, long story short, to do with the British government, because the British government absolutely hate the Tate brothers because they will not succumb. They won't be blackmailed, they won't be bribed, they won't play the game. Now they can bring out all these reasons as to why, but I would challenge anyone who's got a particular opinion to make sure you actually listen to some of the interviews first and see, because a lot of our opinions are very much set by things when we don't even listen to the person. You might listen to them and still hate them. Whether you love them or hate them, Andrew Tate, Julian Assange, look at what's happened to Trump. It's very, very clear that there are a lot of people still in control that are basically taking down public dissenters.
yes. Yeah, nothing makes my skin boil more when I hear people giving the false truth, a lie, that the good guys are in control. No, it's not that. We're here to fight for our lives. And that's not fear mongering, that's reality. Um, very much the cabal's still in control, very much so. And as we've talked about, Catherine, I believe that you and I we're the white hats. And the more we become, the more we become self-sufficient, um, um, the more that we can stand up and say, no, I'm not interested in what you have to sell anymore. But it's becoming, here in the United States, we see certain candidates being removed from ballots illegally. They're not hiding anymore. And we talk about the Cassiopeians a lot. They've been channeled since 1994, and they haven't been wrong yet. And they have said that this group will be able, I want everyone to hear this, they are going to be able to accomplish 80% of their agenda. That's not fear mongering, you guys. That's me telling you, giving you this is me being the stewardess on the airplane, showing you where the exits are. Now you've got to be able to read it for yourself and understand that I'm pushed back our wellness retreat until after the competition, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that this group doesn't go out quietly. And I don't want anybody getting stuck in a situation where they can't get out of the country or they can't get back because of who knows. It is true. The elites are building underground bunkers.
Yeah.
Why? This is reality, guys. We got to get rid of this toxic positivity and this delusional thinking. How clever of the bad guys, though. How clever of them to get people to relax in their laurels while they walk in through the front door.
Yeah, completely. And there's so many important points to this, but yes, there are good things happening, loads of things, but let's just take the American border and the British border. Let's face it. Let's look at what's happening, and I'll have to be very careful because of the platform with my words here, but let's look at what's happening to younger people that are still, even probably more so. So we've had the sounds of freedom, but it's still happening. Just because if people have got to start behaving differently, and this starts with you and your habits at home. If we keep behaving individually in the same way, that means society keeps behaving in the same way, which means we keep getting what we've got up to this point. If we want to change what we're getting in our lives, it has to start at an individual level. And that means looking, and Bryce and I have been having a lot of conversations off cameras about looking at our personal responsibilities and priorities and how we're going to reprioritize those. So no one's exempt from this. And I think it's really lovely to see how much is out there and how many people have got great tips how to help. They've been there, they've done it on a shoestring, they've done it on a budget. You know, this is possible for everyone. And if you don't believe it's possible for you, that is a mindset. It's like V for Vendetta. That's a box you've been put in that you've walked in yourself.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. I was just thinking, do you guys have honeysuckles in England?
Yes, lots of them.
When I was a little kid, which was not that long ago, historically speaking, we used to sit out on the playground, the recess ground at school, and eat honeysuckles off the honeysuckle bush.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're so terrified of everything and anything that I don't even think kids do that. But again, it's that box we put ourselves, those are the same honeysuckles on the recess playground that I had when I was a kid. What's wrong? Like, that's the mental box of, oh, I can't, I have to eat what the grocery store says is good, not what God put. Yeah, it's that mental box of like, you'll be fine. And God, how much better would people feel, Catherine? Like if you knew that something was going to happen and you were going to not be able to get to the grocery store, but you knew what you could eat in the wild in your area?
Absolutely.
It
And
might
if you're
not be
getting it from
comfortable.
the wild, you're much less likely as well to be sprayed with all the toxic chemicals and everything. This is the laughable thing, is the stuff that's actually most harmful for us in general is the stuff that we're buying from the store.
Right.
And
Oh,
imagine
totally.
if we all vote for our dollars and start growing our own stuff, which is very difficult to do in some parts of America, because in some parts of America, you've got restrictions, I understand, on seed sales and things like that.
Oh, I mean, I'm lucky I'm in Georgia. We're
Yeah.
very concerned. So, but yeah, there's maybe.
My friend in California told me, this was years ago, back in 2020, that they had some legislation that said they couldn't grow their own food. Now, I can't remember exactly where she was, but I thought she was joking. And then she sent me the stuff and I was like, that's really true. So just because, this is the thing, is we do live in our own little bubbles to some extent, because just because we're not experiencing it here, look at what's happening with Canada, where they're stopping the supplements. Well, another thing in this self-sufficient bundle, which I'm going to tell you about, is courses like mine teach you how to make your own antibiotics things, how to make your own cough syrups, how to make your own, because everyone might be raving about ivermectin. There's not a chance I'm buying and taking ivermectin because it's made by pharmaceutical companies and there's not a single one I trust not contaminated at the moment. What's the easiest way to get rid of all the awake people? Is to contaminate ivermectin. It's just one way. So, call me, you have whatever opinion you want, and loads of people are taking it very successfully. But if you're going to get into the minds of the evil genius, be cautious. Whereas if you can go out and pick some plants which will do exactly the same thing and are not going to be controlled by them, I know which option I'd rather take.
It's interesting. First of all, my boyfriend actually rolls his own supplements too. He's the first person I've ever met. And when we first started dating, he would get all the stuff. He would research which food, and then he'd chop it, and he has his own little roller to roll his own supplements. And so if he can do it, anybody can do it. And I will say, it's interesting you said that about eating from the wild. Do you guys have a show called Survivor? Have you heard of that show, Survivor? So back in like when it first started, I've always remembered this story. There was a woman on the show Survivor when it first started, like 20 years ago. And then after she finished the show, which basically, for those who don't know, they put them somewhere out in the wild and they have to survive. So a lot of people lose a lot of weight. They have to forage and eat what's provided by the land. She then ended up getting a seat on The View when The View first started. Now it's a joke, but this was way back when it first started with Barbara Walters. And she said she did not realize that she had celiac disease until she went on Survivor, because when she was on Survivor, that was the healthiest she had ever been. Her stomach corrected itself, and because while other people were getting really skinny and struggling, she was thriving because all of a sudden she was eating very natural foods without the contamination and processing. And that's when she realized by doing that show that there was something wrong with her system. And so,
That's a good example.
I've always remembered that because I always had digestive systems too. And so when she left the show, she was able then to course correct her diet in order to work with more natural foods. But it's not going to take you having to go on to Survivor to figure this out. Like, but that's just so being stuck out in the middle of nowhere with only some honeysuckles and whatever you have to forage might actually, as you say, Kat, that might actually turn everybody around and make everybody stronger
I
because
think
all of a
it
sudden,
will. I know it will. It's
yeah,
so true. It's such a good example. And sometimes, there's something about all of us humans where sometimes we need to be made really tough. It brings out, as they used to say, brings out, it makes men. Tough times make strong men.
yes,
Easy times make weak men, and of course, and women. But it's so true. And this is where we can do it. So we can see it as an absolute gift that we've got some pre-warning, because a lot of times when things have happened before, people haven't had pre-warning. Now we all know, all in plain sight. They tell you what's coming. Look at what they've been doing with the internet outages. Look at what they've been doing. Look at what they did with the the test thing before they rolled out COVID, which is exactly, look at the films that they've been launching and who's been in them. So the beauty is when you get that warning in advance, grab it with both hands, embrace it, because actually, in my opinion, Bryce, and this is just a talking point, take it or leave it, everyone. In my opinion, when we all start getting self-sufficient and we create a real revival in this, they are going to have to change their plans. They
yeah,
won't.
because they're not going to know what to do. I will say there was an interview with Rose McGowan where she was calling out CIA and sorry, not, might have to bleep that out, the casting agency CAA, the big casting agency in Hollywood with the Me Too movement, and she
Yeah.
was calling them out. And the interviewer said to her, "These are some pretty powerful people," and she goes, "Yeah, they are powerful, but so am I." And that's the secret. By being self-sufficient, you can look at the group of controllers and be like, yes, you're powerful,
Yeah.
but so am I. And you just gave me the heads up that I needed to prepare myself because I'm powerful as well. So yes, I hope that made
Yeah,
sense.
it really does make sense. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this new stage in my life. I'm excited to get back to these skills that my grandparents all had anyway. I have got a fair amount because I'm a herbalist and I'm really good at knowing in my country what I can eat. If you put me where you are, I probably wouldn't recognize a lot of the plants. So again, look at where you're at. But I did want to finish off by talking about, because of all this, for the last couple of months, I have been massively connecting with people that are really big in this field of self-sufficient living, and they are in every way. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, Bryce, and everyone watching, because these are people that are literally, actually, I'll just have to open up the right tab, sorry, that are literally really going out there and doing it in terms of, they're really, sorry, I'm absolutely cocking this up big time in terms of what to share on my screen. Let's see if that works. Can you see this? So
Yes.
do not look at the website in above, because this doesn't launch till Friday. So all the details to how to get this, if you go to it before then, you'll get the wrong one. So this is all launching this Friday, the 15th of March. I'm going to put all the details below. But this bundle, I did a holistic health one. It's $50. My course in this is worth $99 on its own, teaching you in so much detail about how to use herbs and essentials with animals, make your own remedies, know the difference between a food and a medicine. But look, these are just some of the topics covered. All about self-sufficient living, homesteading, how to make an income from homesteading, building plans for all sorts of different animals and raised beds and everything like that, raising animals, organic gardening, natural remedies for you and your animals. This is stuff that everyone could do. Farmers' recipes, how to can and preserve your own food. This is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, everyone I know who did the holistic health bundle back in January, every single people, the emails I've got from that is they cannot believe how many resources. So in a nutshell, this is, let me just see how many, it's 118 different ebooks and online courses the value, if you were to buy them all separately, is $6,000. You get it all for 10 days only for $50. My dog's, my Mark's putting the animals away because they keep following him to get them in. It's phenomenal. You get the ebooks you can download and you can store forever. So I've actually downloaded a lot of these, and I have got them in printed copies, the ones I'm going to need to know about, tips for growing the vegetables, building the animals, things, etc. Some of the extra recipes that are different to the ones I've got. Canning and preserving is something I've never done. And all the courses, online courses like mine, you've got at least a year's access to. So for $50, if you can't afford it yourself, share it with some friends, because you can do that. This is what it's for. And this will be launched Friday the 15th for 10 days only, because all these creators, myself included, have given all these resources for ridiculously nothing, just to make this available to people. And trust me, these people are absolutely experts in their field. They've been there, they've done it. They're sharing it in a way that literally anyone can follow.
That's amazing. Well, when it launches, send the link to me. I'll put it on my community tab as well, because yeah.
Oh, thank you. Because I think, you know, as I said, even if there's just one bit of that is in there, you know, even if you're just interested in a couple, you've got your money back straight away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What I'm loving is this is, to me, is actually doing it. Get there, do it. People are putting their money where their mouth is. They're saying, here you go. Here's all the resources you could need. You don't need to be overwhelmed. This is the other thing. I think you can just start with one thing. I've just got a really cheap secondhand greenhouse that got put up this weekend. So you're going to be seeing lots from me in there. But, you know, there's ways you can do this depending where you live, how you live. In the UK, we really need a greenhouse because it's cold a lot of the time. But I love it. And I love the fact that so many people in whatever area you're interested in are giving us so many helpful tips now. So go out and grab them.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's so cheap. That is so cheap.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I've looked through, because I'm one of the contributors, I get to look through all the content first, and I am literally blown away by how good this stuff is. And what I'm really blown away with is you're going to see people in every possible circumstance. You know, you've got someone who's a mum of 11 children who's now on her own. And when you watch what this woman is doing, you are just going to be blown away. And it's just, for me, it was like a real... Do you know what this is? It's not only no excuses. I'm so excited to be getting back to this sort of more wholesome way of living. I've always lived quite a lot like that, but now I'm really going to up my game, and I'm going to really enjoy it. And any of you who've got children, I promise you, these resources are absolutely perfect for children. So if you want to get them back into having this joy of knowing how to look, there's even how to make your own ropes. I mean, how exciting! It's fantastic. There's everything you could possibly want is in that bundle to get you started on self-sufficient living.
It's the bundle to fight against the powers that be.
It is literally. And I think, you know, for so many people now, it's just so brilliant to see what a revival there is of either people homeschooling or people taking a much more interest in what their children are learning. And these resources in there are going to be absolutely perfect for that purpose as well.
I'm so excited. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Brilliant. And now just tell everyone again where you're going to be this weekend.
I was about to say, maybe
I'm so jealous.
I'm going to be up in Clayton, Georgia at the Dillard House with our friend Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube that Catherine and I both worked. She's speaking at a Bigfoot convention, you guys. So maybe I can get some tips from her on how to handle Bigfoot if you find yourself stuck in an area, because Bigfoot's all over the world. So I am super excited. If you guys are in the area, I'll be up there all weekend. So yeah,
I wish I was going, because I would be dressed as Bigfoot. I love dressing up as things like Bigfoot. I
will take lots of pictures. I'm going to film what I can. I don't know if I can film a lot, but I'm definitely going to be there for Jessica when she gives her speech. And I know a few people have contacted me that they're going to be there. So if you are going to be there, I can't wait to meet you guys. Ravi will be there too. I don't know if he'll be at the convention, but he will be up there somewhere. Probably with an orange vest on.
He'll be sitting there making friends with Bigfoot. You know, he'll have sniffed him out. You lot will all be off tracking. He'll know exactly
where it is.
Yeah, but you know, really exciting. Have fun. I will take some videos of me getting my greenhouse all set up and everything this weekend, and it's just at the stage where I can start getting my little seedlings planted or my seeds planted. So have fun with this, guys. best analogy I've heard is yours, Bryce. You know, the air hostesses, we don't all freak out when the air hostess gives a safety talk. This isn't about freaking out. It's about enjoying and embracing. We've all said things have got to change. Well, let's have fun changing it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Bryce. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
I'll be back next week on Esoteric Atlanta. Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, CatherineEdwards.life and CatherineEdwardsAcademy.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.